Hi there, and welcome to Inside Intercom. I'm Liam Geraghty. On today's show, we're talking to Alina Vandenberghe, co-founder and co-CEO at Chili Piper, which is a fast-growing meeting lifecycle automation platform built for teams. Alina's story is a fascinating one. Growing up in Romania, Alina started her first company, selling lipstick before high school to pay for her own education. After school, she decided to do a master's in computer science because, as she says, makeup was a low-margin business. Over the years, she's worked for companies like Thomson Reuters, Bloomberg and Pearson before founding Chili Piper with her partner Nicholas Vandenberghe in 2016. Alina shares her story with us today, along with all the lessons she learned along the way. I really enjoyed this chat. So let's head over to studio to meet Alina Vandenberghe. Alina, you're very welcome to the show.
I'm very glad to be here.
You've had such a remarkable journey throughout your life and career. You know, you started your own company before high school. Was that in Romania?
Yeah, that's where I grew up, yes.
Okay. And so you did that to kind of like pay for your own education?
It was a necessity. I started working very early on. And throughout my childhood, many moments of my time, I had several jobs worked in parallel as well.
Where did your interest in kind of tech come from?
I saw a computer at a friend and I was completely intrigued by it. And my dad was kind enough to save his entire work savings and just invest into a computer that I built myself, and the rest is history.
That's brilliant. So, like, what was it like when you then came to the US? And at what point, in your life was that when you moved to the US?
I moved to US after I finished my college degree, and I landed in Times Square somehow. It felt like such a big difference compared to the communist Romania that I grew up in, where everything was in cars. And here I was in Times Square. Everything was like, there was so much light and there were so many people and so many things people were buying. It was like the antithesis of my childhood.
Was it like in the movies? I know with the first time I went to New York coming from Ireland, that it was just like, this just looks like every film I've ever seen in New York.
Very much so. I felt like there was somebody going to come around the corner and kidnap me and we'd go to an adventure, and for sure.
So it was like, I guess, a complete culture shock, like you say.
The work environment in US was a lot different than that of Romania in so many aspects. But the thing that I was shocked by the most at the beginning was the confidence that the American colleagues had compared to those that I was working prior in Europe. Everybody felt so much more confident than I was used to.
And I would be the same. I think it's not necessarily an Irish trait either to be overly confident. It can be difficult. It can be challenging when you come up against that, to work up your own confidence when everyone else just seems to, it's their default.
It was interesting because when I had doubts, I was voicing my doubts. It was an unusual practice. And not only that, it was at least from the outside at the beginning, and then you start understanding all the nuances of it. But it sounds as if everybody thinks they're just going to achieve whatever they put their minds in. So I was a little bit scared that my competition, not competition, but everybody around me I felt like was so much more able to do things versus my internal voice that was telling me, well, in this case, you might need to be careful.
I suppose then, what was your kind of journey at that point, kind of in terms of the hustle of, climbing the corporate ladder? Because I suppose then it was, we'll go on to talk about Chili Piper and its success. But at that time, you were kind of just hustling really in the corporate world.
So I started as an intern and I worked my way up to the corporate ladder to vice president and ultimately to a senior vice president title. I thought that the pinnacle of my career would be being a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. That's how I was building my skills towards. Little did I know that it was not quite what destiny had in store for me. And the reality is that when you work for these large companies, you learn to get to results because otherwise you can't get promoted fast. So you learn that piece of the craft, but you also learn the ugly as well. You learn how to be very political, to create alliances that allow you to climb up. It allows you to maneuver budget in a way that makes you look good. It teaches you some bad habits as well. And for me, from every company that I worked in, and I worked in various industries, I worked in healthcare, in finance, in media, in education. From each industry, I've learned a little bit in how those tactics work and what it takes to be a good politician. But I found myself enjoying that part a lot less than I expected. And I felt a lot more attracted by the building of things. I'm a builder at heart, and I find a lot more joy when I build things and when I create things rather than playing political games. So it was not written in the stars. But I've learned a lot. I've learned how enterprises work, how they make decisions, how they make purchases, how each job on its own has its role in a corporation and how everybody operates. So it was an amazing experience for me.
Did the fact that, like you say, you weren't enamored with the political side of it, but you really just wanted to, build stuff and the excitement and, everything that comes with that, did that make quitting to set up your own company a bit easier?
It was easier from that regard because I knew that I wasn't made of the right stuff to be political 80% of my time. But there was something else that made me the right fit for an entrepreneur, which is that I have a very high tolerance to risk. I'm not at all concerned with bankruptcy. I'm not concerned at all with starting things from scratch, of obstacles, of looking stupid.
Yeah.
I really don't have that fear. So as a result, the combination of two made it a match made in heaven. Plus, I also had my husband by my side who was an entrepreneur and kept encouraging me to try. And he's my co-founder now. So it was really meant to be.
I love that. Do you think that that's just a natural quality that you have, the kind of the no fear thing? Because I know there's probably loads of people listening who would love to not be fearful of, some of the risks that they may have to take.
It's a critical skill, yeah. I don't think one can really push it through without that trait because you fall so many times. Like I am at the ground so many times, and it's not like it gets better at all. And you have to be very, very confident to be okay in starting from scratch every day.
So then when you leave to set up your own company, where does the idea for Chili Piper come from in the first place? Where did that kind of seed come from?
I worked in sales throughout school. I was selling whatever needed to be sold to make meets end. And I've learned the hustle of it, and I've learned the importance of it to be able to help a company grow. And throughout my career, I've also paid a lot of attention to the revenue teams because of that background that I had. Even though I was in software development and I was a product manager, I would spend a lot of time with the sales teams as well. And I would understand their pain points, I would understand their processes. And I really felt that I had a skill set that would enable me to build software for sales teams that would help them thrive. And I felt it was a shame for me not to take that leap and try.
What kind of challenges, I suppose, did you come up against, entering that very busy space of tech and sales?
It's always a challenge. At the beginning, we were bootstrapped, so we didn't have any funding. And I wanted to make sure that whatever we were building, we can sell. And it was a condition, actually. If anybody wanted to buy our product, they had to pay upfront for a year. And I only knew that my product is going to have ROI for my customers if they would be willing to do that. And as soon as we got 3 people to commit, we knew that we had something. Because it's hard, to commit to that much in advance. And then the other thing, we paid a lot of attention to market signals, and we went very bullish with no discount policy. So at Chili Piper, there's never a discount. And we knew that if we're going to cave in, it means that the value of our product is not there.
Mm.
It was another signal that I paid attention to. Also because we were bootstrapped, anytime I had to do something, I kept wondering, can this be automated? Can I automate the hell out of this? And that was the beginning. Now that we've raised funding, there are different kind of challenges, right? You want to achieve market share as fast as possible. You want to get to growth immediately. And you start paying a lot less attention to efficiency, employee productivity. But now that the markets are changing a little bit, it allows us to get back to healthy habits.
How did you go about finding those? You mentioned the three first customers who signed up, but how do you go about finding your first customers?
I just looked at that moment in time. There was on Eventbrite. You'd go and you'd see when meetups would happen with salespeople. So I would go to in-person. We would go to in-person events and talk to salespeople and tell them about the things that we were building and ask them if they're interested to try.
Was there ever, I know sometimes with businesses like this at the start, sometimes there's like doubt over it being a product and not a feature. I'm wondering, is that something that kind of you thought about at the time?
Oh, of course, of course. We weren't, when you're bootstrap, you don't have like a necessity to think through all the details. You just make sure that the economics work. So when we started, our product was very niche. It was about the handoff between SDRs to account executives. So when an SDR would be with someone on the phone and they'd be interested to take a demo, outbound especially, they needed to seize the moment. They couldn't check who's next in the spreadsheet to receive a meeting that might handle that segment. And any moment is an unwasted opportunity. So we just had that handoff product. And we were often told, people that are providing SDRs with the email cadence and the dialer, they're going to build that and you're going to be evaporated in a second. And, I was very cognizant of that danger. And I knew that it was a potential threat. And we immediately built integrations with the top players at that moment in time in the industry. Immediately we had an integration with Outreach and SalesLoft. Eventually they did build some light feature in that direction, but our product was always a lot more complex and handling a lot more complex use cases to handle all sorts of problems in inequality of how meetings are distributed. So we, even though at that time we were perceived as a feature, we still do a lot of business in that field, even to these days.
That's interesting because I've heard you talk about like competitive advantage before and why you believe, bigger companies are unlikely to come in and try and, knock off your product. And I think your take on it is really interesting. Like, can you tell us like why that wasn't a major concern for you?
The reality is that a big company can copy anything and anyone. And there are many examples of that. But you look at Google, they can copy any startup out there. Microsoft can copy any startup out there. It's a matter of focus. And they have to dedicate a resource internally that could fight the fight to build the product from ground up. And oftentimes they have a lot of other priorities. And oftentimes people who are working within corporations have a hard time to fight through the hustles that an entrepreneur does and have enough energy to go above and beyond when obstacles happen. So in essence, I feel it's a lot harder to be an entrepreneur within a large organization than it is to be outside. And it can be done, it's possible, but it's very rare.
For sure. And I suppose, like you say, it requires a person to really be the driving force, behind something like that, if they wanted to do something like that, which they may not have.
That's right. So you'd have to find an Alina at the beginning of her career where she knows that she can build things and she's a fighter. But she has to work within an ecosystem and within an existing framework where that has existing red tape. And she doesn't get all the benefits that she does by building this outside, right? Because she doesn't have the same upside potential. So it's a different game.
So you're 6 years in now, am I right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So what are the kind of significant changes that, you mentioned some earlier on about the shift in focus, but what are some of the changes that have taken place in the company since you started it, maybe with regards to strategy or funding?
The biggest change for me did not come from strategy, nor did it from funding. The biggest change for me came from the way I was approaching building of products. So I come from an engineering background. I did a master in computer science. and I was building my career around product management. And I felt that if you have a really great product, then you have a great company. But I was naive. And the naivety came from thinking that growth and marketing are just about positioning your product right and making sure that different people get exposed to it based on my experience in other corporations. But I came to understand that marketing is essential. I knew a lot about sales, and marketing was one of those areas that I've never spent enough time to fully understand the details. And as of September this year, I'm actually the acting CMO at Chili Piper for the next 12 months. And the reason why I do that is because I don't think I can be a good leader at Chili Piper and a good co-CEO and co-founder without fully going through the experience of being responsible for a P&L, for being responsible for a marketing strategy that helps us 10x our numbers.
Wow. I think that really, again, speaks to the kind of fearlessness you spoke about, because I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't be, as willing to just jump into those roles.
I don't think I have a choice. I don't think I can be a great entrepreneur without that skill set honed in. So I don't think it's a matter of choice. It's a necessity.
Is there more freedom now to be bolder in your actions in terms, like you mentioned, about taking risks than, say, versus, at the start of the company?
I think that at any point in time, any action that I take, I make sure that I start small before I scale it. So in that sense, the risk taking is quite similar. So I don't overly invest in a TikTok campaign before I'm convinced that I can target properly, or I don't create an lavish events experience unless I know I can drive pipeline. So every experiment has to start with a smaller scale to prove value from it. So I would say that in terms of risk taking, it's still quite calibrated the way it was always been. The only difference from being bootstrapped versus now is that now we have a lot more variables in which we can conduct these experiments because it's more of us and there's more cash available.
One thing that I think is particularly interesting to hear about, I suppose off the back of COVID, has made many businesses rethink their office plans and try to figure out what works best for them. And with Chili Piper, you're a remote-only company. How have you been finding that?
It's been funny because in 2016, when we started and we said we're going to be remote only, people said it's impossible. It cannot be done. How can you create a culture where people don't see each other? And, we didn't have a choice. We had to hire people to build our software and design our software. And at that time, because we were bootstrapped, we couldn't afford hiring an engineer in New York or in San Francisco. And we would go to anywhere where we'd find amazing talent. But it was another element to it. I love traveling, and so does my co-founder. So it felt so silly to be strapped by a neon light at the desk when the world is so beautiful and so many things to explore. And I'd worked remotely with people before, and it didn't feel impossible. So we thought we would try, despite everybody's ramblings around it. And then when COVID hit and people saw that indeed it's possible, they started looking at all our methods and all the things that we were doing differently to become productive at home as well. It's still interesting because I don't know if you've experienced that, but there's a lot of benefits from working from home, from being close to your family and to have the liberty to be anywhere you want at any point in time. But there are also some downsides to it, like feeling a little bit isolated and going through some repetitive patterns that need to be broken, and you need to see people active to be able to be invigorated. So we have some tactics for that as well.
And what would be, is the kind of like, getting everyone to meet up in the one place, maybe a couple of times a year or something?
Actually, I'm in Paris right now. It's a shame you can't see the beautiful place that I'm in. We're on our way to Morocco in the desert. We're bringing all our employees there. We're going to be 250 people, I think. They're setting up tents for us in the desert. And we have an amazing experience there. So once a year, for sure, we give our all into these experiences, and they're magical.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
And we also have some other things that we do. For instance, when people visit each other in other countries, Chili Pie prepares for Airbnb and for dinner, and we encourage people to meet up.
Am I right that you travel to every country where you plan to hire?
So we're right now in 42 countries at Chili Piper. And I think there's only one country that I have not yet visited.
Where is that, do you know?
I've not yet been in Lagos in Nigeria, but I'm planning to go.
Is that something that like came from your own experience of what we were discussing at the start, you know, the differences, the cultural differences you experienced between, you know, coming from Romania to America?
I love exploring cultures. I love it. I love it. They're so interesting. People do things that are so unusual to one another, and it's so interesting to uncover why and what drives them and what makes them different. And I find a lot of beauty in diversity.
Just before we wrap up, you know, what does the future look like for Chili Piper at the moment?
We're at a super exciting time where, because I'm taking this marketing team myself, I'm learning a lot more to be a better builder for marketing teams. And I knew how to serve the needs of salespeople really well. And I knew how to get to a product that gets them double the pipeline. But now I'm getting a lot more tactical with marketing, and I see a huge potential to for us to become a platform within that pre-sales funnel that gets me so excited. I feel like there's a huge untapped opportunity, and I can't wait to build all the things that I have in my head right now.
And what's next? I mean, do you have any big plans or projects coming up that you could mention?
We're going to start our first PLG, self-service motion. We don't have like a start now on our website, but we're actually going to use Intercom for that. And it's going to be maybe ready in about 4 months from the recording of the podcast.
Excellent. That's always good to hear. And lastly, then, where can our listeners go to keep up with you and your work online?
The best would be LinkedIn. I post a lot about my experiences as a marketer and as a founder and as an entrepreneur on LinkedIn. And it's easy to follow and comment and learn from interacting with others for me and for my audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been having a look the last couple of weeks, I suppose, and there's some really fantastic insights up there on your LinkedIn. But Alina, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you, Liam, for having me. That was a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Alina Vandenberghe. As always, we love to hear from you on social. You'll find us on LinkedIn and Twitter @Intercom. Okay, that's it for this episode. See you next week for more Inside Intercom.
This is Inside Intercom.